What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to Starbucs. Typically, it is me and Donardo. No Donardo this week. He decided to just go gallivanting around Florida or something. But we've got Ryan Alexander filling in for him. Ryan, what's going on?
Hey, Jim, what's up? Yeah, Donardo, what is he? South Beach, checking out Dwayne Wade's statue. I don't know. He's doing something.
That might be what he's doing. I know he said he was going to Miami. I think he's going to Miami Beach. I think he's going to South Beach.
Yep.
He's going for like the whole week.
Yeah, he
I don't know if I
loves
could do
Miami.
South Beach for a week though.
Yeah, he loves Miami. I'm honestly no. I'm surprised he stayed in Jacksonville as many years as he has, and just not gone the whole way to Miami. But yeah,
It's a fun city,
it is.
but I don't think I could do a week there.
Yeah, a week's kind of long
And expensive.
and
Miami's an expensive city.
like there's no like concert or game that he's going to. He's just vacationing. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's a little long.
Good for him.
But I'm here. I'm here to step in for Donardo since he dropped the ball.
Yeah, there we go. How was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend?
It was good. Can I vent a minute here?
Oh yeah.
So as you'll mention here, the Bet Online ad in a second. I think they have a contest of where you basically an NFL pick contest where you pick 5 games by the spread. I am in one at Circa Million. I don't know if you were aware of that or anybody was aware of that, but I'm in a Circa Million contest. You pick 5 games by the spread. So you win. If you win the whole thing, it's like $4 million or something. And there's quarterly prizes, like $100,000 if you win a quarter and things like that. So a lot of money involved. Well, I've been doing good this year. I've been above 500. I was at like 60% for most of the season, but I had a couple bad weeks the last 2 weeks. Yesterday, the early games hit, and I'm 4-0. And I got one game pending, Jim. One game to go 5-0. The undefeated week, and I had the Bears minus 2.5. And I was watching it at my parents', and hey, the Bears pulled it out in the last second, get the 2-point conversion. They're covering 3. I can't believe I'm going to pull this out, go undefeated. And the Commanders hit a Hail Mary.
That was a wild Sunday.
That was how my Sunday went.
That game was crazy. The 1 o'clock games were crazy. That game was crazy. It was a wild Sunday. Yeah.
Yep.
So, well,
that sucked.
Yeah.
But hey, you'll take a 4 in 1 week in those contests all the time. But
yeah,
it really should have been 5-0. So it was like a punch to the gut there.
There we go. All right. Well, speaking of that, yeah. Basketball fans, it's that time of year again. The NBA is back. From opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, Bet Online has you covered with the best odds, biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. Bet Online has every stat, matchup, breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the game. And it's not just the NBA. Bet Online has odds on everything from football, MLB playoffs, NHL, to political props. Head to the website today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right. Let's talk about before we get into the World Series. We're 2 games into the World Series, Ryan. Over the weekend. So you may recall about a month ago, one of our listeners, Canyon Schwartz, he organized a Pirates protest with his brother, basically just to voice their displeasure with Bob Nutting. And I feel like the first protest, I don't know if it was just poorly timed or whatnot. It was on a weekday, and there were, I think, 3 to 5 people who were there kind of total. But hey, they went out and they did something. Yesterday, there was another protest. A little bit more people, about 15 people. It was enough to show up on that police scanner Twitter account.
Which is like we're still debating if that account's like for real or
Yeah.
not, but I think it is.
I think, it's absolutely for real. You just have I think it's just you get, people saying really weird
Yeah,
stuff on a
it's
play scanner
unbelievable
sometimes.
stuff on there. Yep.
But, but yeah, so yesterday about, 15 people showed up wearing their "Sell the Team Bob" T-shirts. So, what's your take on all this, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it got a little more steam this time, which, like you mentioned, like I guess is if they're planning on doing this kind of like once a month throughout the off season, I think it will slowly pick up steam. And we saw it with the last one. I mean, I think it got covered by the media. I mean, even with the couple of guys out there, like I believe DK was covering it, Mackey was covering it. This past one, it sounds like they kind of just like walked through downtown. So they went past. DK had a tweet out about it, and I think a cop even came over and uh, asked for a shirt. So that was funny. But yeah, it's gaining traction, and I mean, like I think you guys touched on this last time. Like, is it something that I'm going to go out to, or I think is going to make a difference, or Bob Nutting's going to take a look and really give a crap? Probably not, but hey, you never know. And the more they do it, they get a little more steam, more people at it. I'm hats off to them. Like I just, it is what it is. But I think, yeah, like the first one, I think, like you said, you barely heard about it beforehand, and unless you were following Canyon or something, you didn't really see it. But this one, yeah, it's getting a little more traction. So somebody commented on Twitter yesterday during, I think it was the DK's tweet, and said, "Do we know Bob Nutting's address? Maybe we could protest there." And it's like, okay,
Just go outside his home,
yeah, just you know, I'm
pitch
pretty
tents
sure
in his
he's in.
front yard.
I'm pretty sure he's in Wheeling, but I don't have the address, so sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be something. So maybe the third or fourth protest, they just park out in front of Mr. Nutting's home.
Maybe that's what they do. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think I said it the first time too. It's like I don't expect anything really to come out of these, but hey, you know what? If you're passionate about what you're doing, go ahead and do it. I'm not going to tell anybody they're right or wrong on doing it. If I mean, I think we're all pretty displeased with how this team is currently being ran. So, hey,
Yep.
exercise your First Amendment rights.
Right. Right. Yeah, you could. I mean, while they're at it, they could protest MLB for the way it's structured, because that's obviously half the problem right there.
Yeah, and we'll get to that too. We'll get to that too today. Um, let's talk about the World Series a bit. What a wild weekend! That I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better start to the World Series. It was kind of crazy. So Friday, I was traveling. I got off a plane and finished watching the Louisville football game, which they came back as soon as it was like all they needed was me to land. Once I landed, they
It was
were
all good.
smooth sailing. But Louisville football on Friday night, and then I switch over to the game, and it's the ninth inning, and so um, I see the game go into extra innings. You see, New York take the lead in the top half of the 10th, and then just wild stuff in the bottom of the 10th inning. Freddie Freeman basically on one leg, Kirk Gibson style,
Right.
um, walk off grand slam to start the World Series. Just a pretty crazy game. And then game 2 also didn't disappoint. That was a that was a great game as well. It kind of came down to the end there. The Yankees put a run in the ninth, had runners on base. It was another very exciting game. So yeah, the Dodgers though heading back to New York up 2-0. I think if you're baseball, you're happy with where you're at. If you're LA, you're super happy where you're at, up 2-0 heading into New York. But yeah, how have you viewed these first two World Series games so far?
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it. I know it's this World Series has kind of gotten a bit of a, I don't know, a bad image around like small market, like a Pittsburgh and stuff. People just like, oh, it's and I get it, it's the Yankees and the Dodgers, but yeah, the Yankees haven't won one since what, like '08. Like they really haven't been there, or had won it. So the thing is, yeah, baseball's loving it, obviously, but these two teams, like, they're loaded with stars. And like you mentioned, it really hasn't been, everyone's waiting for Judge or Otani to do something. It really hasn't been them. But yeah, just what a moment, game one. Freddie Freeman, which yeah, Freddie Freeman has played for the Braves and Dodgers, two teams that most Pirate fans probably don't root for or really enjoy. But Freddie
Right.
Freeman seems like a really likable dude. So like him just to have that moment, like you said, he's not 100%, obviously. Now he legged out a triple like in that one game. So like I think he can, he's doing a little better than probably Gibson was at the time. But yeah, just a great moment. And yeah, that's what you want to. It's good baseball. Like these games are, it's competitive. There's stars against stars, and it's just you can't kind of script that any better. And he crushed that pitch. Just first pitch, and Nestor Cortez coming in and just serves up a 94 mile per hour right down the middle, and yeah, Freeman crushed it. So it was good to see, and they win game two. And it's just I don't know. I think the Dodgers are. I think they're the better team. You look at the Yankees lineup, and it's just basically Judge and Soto, and then and Judge has been terrible this postseason. So that's been the Yankees, struggle and everything. So yeah, it's been good. And I also have a small future bet on the Dodgers. So I've been enjoying
Okay.
it a little more than usual.
There we go. I think my big futures bet this year was Brian Hayes NL MVP.
Yeah, that went horribly wrong.
That didn't go well. That didn't go well at all. No, it was neat because yeah, you mentioned like the Dodgers and their star power, and really the Yankees have the star power too. But Freddie Freeman's kind of the forgotten guy. He hasn't really been hitting that well this postseason. He ended the season kind of just hobbling to the finish line. But yeah, that moment in game one, that was really really neat. And yeah, I think the Dodgers right now, they're in a pretty good position. I originally picked the Yankees to win this mostly because of their starting pitching.
I think you and
Uh,
you and Donardo both did, didn't you?
yeah, but I mean, you beat Garrett Cole game one, and then game two, you got Yamamoto out there. So the Dodgers have been able to hang with the Yankees when it comes to the pitching aspect, and like you mentioned, the lineup just being a little bit more lengthy than the Yankees, I think, is proving to help them out quite a bit. The Yankees, yeah, hasn't been great. Soto's been Soto. Now Stanton has like picked up. Stanton has basically picked up Judge's, for Judge, but that really is just giving the Yankees two bats to worry about in that lineup. But Stanton has had a hell of a postseason too. I think he's got
Yeah.
6 homers or something like that. Um, yeah, he's been killing the ball. But it's also it kind of brings us to kind of this whole show. What I really wanted to talk about was
Well, hang on. One
yeah,
one note I wanted to mention on that game one. So as you mentioned, they beat Garrett Cole in game one. Well, they really didn't. So Garrett Cole, former Bucco, goes 6 innings, 1 run, 88 pitches. It's just the one decision. Like if you're Boone, like are you pulling Cole after 88 pitches? Like you're riding with your guy for as long as you can. And Cole's done. Like Cole's gone 100 plus before. Like he can do this. This is the biggest spot. Like I thought that was because then basically what happened was you start putting the bullpen in, you start going, all right, Holmes, you start, an inning, couple, and you just start going through your rotation. And then you end up with Jake Cousins and Nestor Cortez at the end of the game. So it just kind of started this revolving door. I don't know if I'm pulling Cole out that early. He was cruising.
yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm also not pulling Garrett Cole out after 88 pitches. Like you mentioned, he was cruising. He was in the fifth inning. He gave up a run, but pitched a scoreless sixth. He only gave up 4 hits, no walks. Yeah, he was cruising through that game. So I'm not entirely sure what Boone was doing there because, like you said, what that does is it just starts everyone else earlier. Like if
Yep.
Holmes pitches the eighth instead of the seventh, then Weaver's pitching the ninth instead of coming in the eighth. So yeah, it was I mean, it's one of those things when you're in the postseason, you dissect every
Yep.
single like moment and decision because it's all so important.
Yep.
Um, and in hindsight, you look back now and you're like, yeah, it would have been nice to get one more inning out of Cole, if you're a Yankees fan.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this all postseason in the last couple of years. Like the teams go to the bullpen. I mean, the Dodgers are doing bullpen games and stuff, in the ALCS or the NLCS. So you're seeing this a lot more where teams are going to their bullpen, they're throwing everybody, but like it's just Cole's like the one guy that like you're gonna ride with. Like that's your starting pitcher, and yeah, it just seemed like they didn't have to really. You had the lead, like you're up 2-1, like you didn't have to pull them. You didn't have to go to that bullpen yet, until you had to. Um, so yeah, that was the one decision that just was, and then you end up people are like, why is Nestor Cortez in there? He hasn't pitched in a month, or well, that's why, because you took your horse out early, So that's all. That was my one. I had to get a manager gripe in there.
Yeah. Well, again, kind of going back to the reason why I wanted to bring this up. This is the highest payroll ever in a World Series. The Yankees end the season with a $311 million payroll. The Dodgers, $272 million payroll. So you've got $584-ish million in payroll, pretty much in this World Series. And I think this is an interesting conversation to have, and it's one that we have every once in a while, and it typically happens during the off season. But it is possible to put together winning teams without high payrolls, right? Like we see it every year. The Brewers made the playoffs this year. The Rays made the playoffs this year.
Guardians.
The Orioles, not the Rays, the Guardians, the Orioles. So like you can get there, if you are a well ran organization, you make good moves, you draft good players. We saw the Royals again this year. But it still brings us back to the World Series and like winning the World Series, though. No team outside the top half of Major League Baseball's payroll has won the World Series since 2003 when the Marlins won. That's 21 years. We're now going where every World Series winner top half in payroll. And like
Yeah,
I believe in coincidences, but I also believe in trends. And I feel like 21 years is long enough to say like this is a trend. You even look at the 2015 Royals. The Royals were still top half.
that's what I was going to bring up. Were
Yeah.
they like 15th, or they
They were
14th?
they were top half. I think they were even like higher than that, like 12th or 13th.
Okay.
But it just goes back to if you're a team and you're unwilling to spend enough to just be in that middle tier of teams, it's just you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball, because the money is there to really provide you depth more than anything. And that's what you're seeing. Yeah, it's the superstars. You can have a young superstar if you draft well, but like having those superstars, having that depth, it's made a difference for the past 2 decades now. And again, I think it just kind of goes to show that, yeah, you can win in windows, you can win over the course of a regular season, but when it comes to winning a World Series, it's tough if you don't spend money.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it even with the ALCS, Yankees Guardians. Like Guardians had a great year. They're at 108 million payroll, give or take a few, and that's like they had a great season. We've seen the Guardians in Cleveland do this kind of every like 5, 6, 7 years. They make a run in the playoffs. They win the division, or they go to the playoffs, and they make a World Series, or at least they go deep into the playoffs. And they ran into the Yankees, so they have $108 million payroll, and the Yankees are at what, 310, 311. So it just, and the Yankees, the Guardians had that nice walk-off win and everything, and that was the only game they won. Like the Yankees just kind of steamrolled them besides that. So like it really does show, like, yeah, can you make the playoffs? Can you have a winning window, as we saw like in 13 to 15? Yeah, but when the push comes to shove, can you make a deep run and compete against the Yankees, the Astros, the Dodgers? It's tough. It's real tough. And like you said, like the Guardians have done this, and they're at least spending. They're over 100. And I think when they went back in 15, it was like $120 million payroll. So like they're at least spending that. And that's like Pirates can't even get anywhere near that. Like just spend to the average or close to the average. And they're not. So and with the Guardians and you like those teams, like you said, you really got to be a well-run organization to pull it off. And what have we seen from the Pirates in the past 30 years? They're not well run. So that's not good. That's a strike against you.
Yeah. The Score over the weekend put out what's called the Scrooge index
It's a
also. So
great name.
I wanted to kind of talk about this because it really does show that like there's obviously a pretty large gap when it comes to the resources available between teams like the Dodgers and Yankees and teams like say the Pirates or Rays, right? Like
Yep.
there's a pretty big discrepancy there. Um but it also kind of breaks down, how do teams deploy those resources. So the Score put out a list, compared estimated revenues from 2023 to like their to the collective bargaining tax payroll. But we were in the Discord yesterday, and shout out to OG Minlow in Discord. He's in the comments here too on the show. But shout out to him. Shout out to all the data that like Ethan Holohan provides us. So, but I wanted to share some stuff with you. This slide was put together by OG Minlow. So, if you're listening to the podcast, I'll walk us through it. If you're watching it, you'll get a little bit better of a visual here. But pretty much, what percentage of your revenue do you spend on payroll? Right. That's essentially what this comes up to. And you look at the bottom of this list, right, and you see the Dodgers, who made $549 million last year. They've
Estimated.
they've estimated, yeah,
Yeah.
they're putting in a total between collective bargaining tax payments, between the payments, competitive balance tax payments. Sorry, that was collective bargaining, competitive balance tax. Between those payments and payroll, the Dodgers are at $369 million. They spend 67% of their revenue on payroll. The Yankees, they're at $374 million, spending 55% of their revenue on payroll. And then you look at the top of this list and you see the Pirates with their $309 million in revenue, spending 87.3 of that on payroll. So you've got, not only do you have less resources, right? Your revenue is roughly 250 to $350 million less than these two teams. But you're also spending a much smaller percentage of that revenue on your payroll. And I think that's what's frustrating for Pirates fans, because you look at this list and there are other teams in the same revenue bucket as the Pirates, right? They're in that low $300 million range. You look at the Rockies, for example. The Rockies brought in $4 million more than the Pirates last year, but their payroll was $63 million more than the Pirates. So that's so I wanted to talk about this just a little bit because, yeah, I think it makes sense that those higher revenue teams are spending a larger portion of their revenue on payroll, because they're talking about bigger numbers, right? I mean, only how much does it cost to run a front office? How much does it cost to just operate as a major league business, right? You can that's probably pretty close to being a fixed cost league wide. It's going to differ a little bit between just how people deploy money internally, but it's not going to be too far off. But this is just like, you look at the teams like the Pirates and you're like, why are we spending so much less than these other teams? Like, how is it that the Rockies can spend $63 million more than the Pirates while making the same amount, while bringing the same amount of money in?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, look, the Diamondbacks too. Diamondbacks estimated 314
Yeah.
for their for their revenue. So yeah, and that's, I mean, like I said, this was great to put this together, and I love the name, the Scrooge Index. Like, it's perfect because that's what bond nutting is at this point.
Yeah.
But like, it just shows you what we've known for a long time. Like the Pirates just they just aren't spending to where they should be. And like I said, we're not saying that they need to go and spend 109% of their revenue like the Mets are. The Mets just clearly have an owner that really wants to win.
Right.
But you're spending 28%. And like I said, everyone always says, well, nothing. He sets a budget for the payroll based off of the previous attendance and everything and how much money they made.
Mhm.
But like here, estimated, it's showing you what those numbers are. And like you said, there's other, obviously Nutting's throwing every other cost in there about how to run a franchise, payroll, the front office, and all that. But you can't tell me that fixed expense is the difference here between the payroll and how much they made. Like there's money that he's pocketing at this point. So they don't need to spend 200 million, 300 million like the Yankees and Dodgers. But like, yeah, like you should be at 120 million easily. Like 120 million should never, that should be your minimum at this point with the Pirates. Like you said, the Rockies spending 150, the Diamondbacks 177, the Brewers are at 120. Where are the Reds?
The Reds
Yeah,
are
Reds are
106.
106, which is that's low too. But they just kind of went through a typical, kind of like a rebuild with the Pirates too. That they're,
Mhm.
but we'll see if they throw money at. But it's just, yeah, you should be at 120 should be your minimum.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah.
And I think this is where if you look at the average down there at the bottom, so the average team spends 48.12%. Now that includes the Mets, and the Mets are the outlier here. If you take the Mets out, it's 45.91. But you do have to include the Mets because they are paying players, baseball players, real money. So, I think
Right.
you do have to include the Mets in here when you talk about averages. So, but overall, you're looking at the Major League Baseball commits 48% of their revenue to paying their players, right? And that's pretty close to like every other league across the board. I think the NFL's in that 48 to 49% range. I think the NBA is like 49%. NHL's right in that same wheelhouse, like 49, 50, 51%, something in that area. So you're spending basically the same amount on your players as other leagues are in total. And I think what's interesting there is, the whole point of kind of avoiding this salary cap, salary floor conversation in baseball is the MLB union saying, now you can't, we're not going to let you limit our salaries. Well, like they're being limited anyways, right? The
Yeah.
owners are putting this artificial cap in place, and it's basically the exact same as all the other leagues, right? The
Yep.
difference that the other leagues have is that it's less of a disparity between the bottom and the top.
Yeah. Everybody's like at least trying to put a team, field a decent team and spend some money. And here in
Right.
baseball, they allow it where the bottom feeders can just spend under 100 million and just continue to pocket money and go from there. So yeah, I mean, look at it. It's the Pirates are spending 28.25% of their revenue. Who's the only team worse? It's the A's. And what's been a mess? The A's, who are currently moving to a minor league park in the middle of nowhere, Sacramento, California. So it's just that's where the Pirates are at. I mean, that's
Yeah.
they're at the bottom, and the team that's worse than them is moving.
Yeah. I would love to see that, and we can talk about if this is, I'm sure the owners want a cap system, right? And I think they would go for that just because it kind of puts a fixed cost on their expenses. But I mean, looking at this chart, like if I'm the players union, I'm probably I'm probably thinking about it because it allows more teams to offer your players money, which I think raises the floor of your players. Like there'll be a lot more players signing, those like mid tier deals. I think if you kind of allowed the bottom half of this list to really play for those players a little bit more. And I'm not saying they can't right now. It's just that they're a little bit limited on what they can do. Those like mega superstar contracts, I would be surprised to see, like, how those would get affected in a cap system. Like, do you see 14-year, $600 million contracts like Soto's gonna get this offseason, right? Like, are
Right.
those going to exist under a system like that? I'm not sure. But, yeah, I mean, it goes back to this is the system we're playing within now, and the Pirates are already behind 8 ball just because of the revenues, right? But if you're gonna put yourself even farther behind that ball by just not spending the resources that you have on the things that are gonna to make the most impact on your team, it's just, it's rough. It's rough because you look at the average is 48%, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if the
we're like
Pirates spent
15,
48
20% off.
yeah, so, I mean, if the Pirates took if the Pirates put 48% of their revenue into payroll, you're looking at like a $345 million payroll. I mean, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
$145 million payroll,
right.
which is like we hear that number as Pirates fans, and that sounds exorbitant, right? Like,
Right.
no way we're gonna have a $145 million payroll, but that's just spending what other teams spend on
Mhm.
payroll. That's where the Pirates should be, right? But they don't. They don't spend that much. They spend, again, the second least amount on their payroll in the league behind the A's. And it's put them in this situation where they're in. And the situation that they're in is that they can't afford mistakes. They can't afford players to not develop the way that they need to, because you saw it this year. Like, we thought this team with certain people taking steps forward could maybe do something. And when those people didn't take steps forward, when all your free agents didn't hit, you were in for a disaster, right? And
Yep.
it just your margin for error goes a lot farther down whenever you're not committing the necessary funds to payroll.
Yeah, and that like I talked about this with John Parado in my interview a couple weeks ago. Like if the Pirates just sign, like they're saying, we're not saying go spend 200 million, but if they just made a signing or two and yeah, increase that payroll above 100, maybe to pushing 120.
Well, I just lost your audio, Ryan. I can't hear you. You know what, though? I think it's about time we get out of here anyways. I still can't hear you. I don't know what's going on. But let's just kind of wrap things up here. Sorry about that. It's audio difficulties, but we're gonna wrap things up. I know Ryan had a hard stop right around this time anyway, so but like I said, it's just a conversation I wanted to have this morning. Shout out to OG Minlow in the Discord for putting that graphic together. Shout out to Ethan for all of his data that went behind that. But yeah, it's just it's frustrating because you're watching this World Series and it's a lot of fun, and you're like, hey, it would be really cool to have my team in that one day. But with the way that the Pirates are currently doing business, with the way that MLB's kind of heading, it's just it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. Let's just say that. So, with that being said, are you back, Ryan?
I think so. Can you hear me?
There we go. Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, so it just cut out in mid.
It just cut out mid rant. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So
I see you were wrapping up now. No, my thing was I was just saying the last like 15, 20 years, what have we always heard? Nothing's gonna spend when the time comes. Well, the time is now. You have Paul Skeens. Like this is the time that you would spend. And we're starting to hear the same stuff. Well, he's gonna set the budget, depending on the attendance the year before and all that. So like it's just more of the same. So we'll see
mm,
what happens. But like I said, I'm not holding my breath. And that's the bar is so low. Like we're not asking for them to spend 150. If they just signed a couple guys and pushed to 120, this fan base would go nuts. And
I'm with you. The
place
bar's low.
PNC
Like,
Park would be packed.
yeah, like I mentioned, the average there would be like a $145 million payroll, but I'm not even asking for that.
No,
Like, just give us
yeah,
something to where we're competing with the likes of the Brewers and the Reds. Like, that's all I'm asking for right now. It's just
yeah,
don't be so far down on this list. Like, there an $87 million payroll in 2024 is not acceptable. Your payroll was higher than that 9 years ago, and heck, with inflation, like the money we're spending right now in 2015 dollars is probably like 55-60 million bucks.
Well, they were 2015. They spent more. They were at 98 million or
Yeah,
whatever. So like they spent more than 10 years ago.
right. And
So
it's yeah,
it sucks.
yeah.
What do you real quick? What do you make of? We've seen. I think the Twins ownership is selling or going to sell. The White Sox are now hinting that they're selling. What do you make? I mean, because obviously these teams are just ridiculously valuable and going to go for a lot of money, billions. And we've heard it for years. Nutting won't sell because why would he sell? Because he can pocket 50-60 million a year. Um, what do you make of like two MLB teams being for sale kind of at around the same time? Seems a little unusual. Like these guys just, and it's the teams that haven't, the Twins have been, I don't know, they've spent more, but they've kind of been, their fan base gets on them for the same thing. And then the White Sox just had a ridiculous year. But what do you make of like them selling? Like, is this I don't know, is this just cashing out, just tired of all the just getting yelled at for not spending?
Yeah, I think with teams selling, because you saw the Orioles just sell too. I don't think the White Sox are going to get sold. I think that's just him kicking tires and because he wants
Yeah.
a new stadium. But with Minnesota, I think what you're going to see now, and Jay Lucy 3, alludes to it, is I don't know if teams are necessarily going to go down in value, but the trajectory that they are on may decline, right? And
It may cap. Yeah.
a lot of that having to do with this RSN stuff with TV rights.
Yeah.
You've got most of the league now who have lost some sort of RSN revenue, right? It happened to the Pirates last year. It's happened to a lot of teams this year. It happened to a lot of teams last year. So you've got you like had this source of revenue coming in that you may or may not have really been deserving. And now it's like it's going away and it's a little bit more volatile. I think that's maybe not necessarily forcing people to sell a team, but it's making maybe you're more risk averse people who kind of just had this as an investment. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's going to at least make owners look at their business a little bit different, and that okay, I'm going to be losing out on this revenue stream. What now? And
Yeah.
maybe for some people like the Twins, the what now is, and let me just get out of this. I probably 30x to my investment from the original
Yeah.
purchase price. So like
Right.
let's just do that.
Yeah, it was a good investment, guys. You're
Yeah.
gonna do okay. And
Right.
just real quick Google search here. Forbes has the Pirates valued at 1.32 billion. Just saying, Bob. I mean, that's just put it out there.
You can buy a lot of newspapers with that money.
Yeah, you bought like all of them. Just shut them all down.
Yeah. All right. You want to get out of here?
Yeah, sorry for the audio issues.
Ah, you're good. You're good. All right, guys.
I
Hey,
blame
appreciate
Bernardo.
everybody. Yeah, appreciate everybody waking up this morning, watching, everybody listening on the podcast later today. Have a really good week. Like the video, subscribe to the page if you haven't. Also, we've launched our Patreon. So our the YouTube membership thing, we stopped that, but we moved it over to Patreon. So there's a link if you choose to want to support us even more than you do right now. Sign up for that Patreon. It gets you a few extra perks, including access to our members only Discord, which is always a lot of fun. So, but yeah, definitely join the Discord if you haven't. A lot of good conversation happening in there. And again, thanks for watching. Let's have a good week. We'll catch you guys later.
Peace.
Hey, you all, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.